OmniJoe, it is winners finals time. TTV and Bad Macro Flip Bird. One of the more heavyweight matches we're going to get in this tournament, and they're squaring off here. Talk to me, because we've seen both teams play so far. Both teams have looked incredibly overwhelming onto their opponents. And now they're going to find themselves a little bit closer to parity.
Yeah, who would have guessed it? Our top two seeds in at winners finals, and they've demonstrated why. They've been very strong, fought objectives well, been good at engaging when they've had to. Actually, they've been kind of like the bullies of the competition, where they push, they engage more than any other team. They get into your jungle, they steal any mobs that they see, and they just pad out their levels and make that sort of known as the game progresses to a point where, you know, they just are out DPSing most characters and able to defend Zapdos if need be, or steal it for themselves after winning a team fight. That's normally how these games have gone for them. So yeah, both with star-studded casts of some of the best players that we know on the scene right now. So I'm really looking forward to this winners finals.
Yeah, me too. I'm interested to see, and I think to me where at least this game one is going to hinge while they execute their traditional game plans is between Gosu and Toon. Whose Cinderace impacts the game fastest? Who's going to be able to come in and get that first early pick? Who's going to make their presence known is what I'm getting at, OmniJoe.
Yeah, I mean, these sorts of characters always have been big impacts on the game. They can feel oppressive at times when they get well fed and helped by their teammates. They can feel on the back foot and not be the impact. So it's one of those roles where you get all the plaudits when everything has gone right for you and your team has helped you out. But you also have to sort of be there at the right times. You have to be on the scene for those moments. You have to really be on your toes to pivot and react to situations. So absolutely, it's a crucial role in the game. So we'll see how Gosu versus Toon as a 1v1 sort of plays out.
Absolutely. We've got that action queued up, and we're going to jump right down to it. Another point of mentioning, Snorlax versus Mime. Sylveon versus Pikachu.
Yep.
Those are the big mix-ups here, and we're going to have to see how each one leverages what their Pokemon can do the best. So we talk about the main one-on-one, but now we've got kind of the Snorlax v Mime and the Pikachu v Sylveon there. Here we go. Zugrug, Indian Goof rolling downstairs.
Yeah, and I do think Pikachu complements Mr. Mime really nicely with some barriers. Trapping them with the electro balls is really nice, or the electro webs, I should say. So it is a nice combination to go alongside each other. And we are sticking with Zerg, the Snorlax here, who's going to be paired up with that Sylveon, as you said, Swift from the EV early, mopping up some Audino and pushing back the aggressive push from Flipbirds here, who have been able to get involved in the action early, as you'd always expect from both these teams. They are always aggressive and in your face.
It's literally been go all the way across for Apom, get pushed all the way back for the first Apom, push all the way forward for the bottom left Apom, get pushed all the way back for the bottom right. Now, nobody's worse for wear here, but Toon is already a Raboot and already with Lutano in that top lane. You have to think that Toon is one of the fastest junglers that we've seen in this tournament and in tournaments past, but no slouch either is Gosu, who originally in the first tournament we watched was playing Eldegoss, switched over to this Raboot, and now it's been paying dividends for the squad. Those bees melted between the Lucarios and those Raboots.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like down bottom lane, more of the same story themselves. We don't see Eldegoss just yet for Bad Macro, but they'll get there eventually, no doubt. And we are seeing Pikachu getting in the mix as well. I think TTV have had a slightly better time of it down the bot lane, looking just at the levels alone. So they're slightly ahead here, as it looks like Bad Macro are trying to catch up that little bit, see a bit of rest action from Zerg. They're all nice and fully healed and trying to push even further into their area and maybe also steal this Audino.
Yeah, I don't want to go too big brain here, and I don't want to misremember, but I'm pretty sure in other matchups, Indie Bear has been using something that isn't experience share. And you know that it's experience share because the light bulb above the character, right? But they've put experience share on for this game. Now, don't go back and check the tape to make to confirm that. Just believe me, it's right. And if that's the case, then that's impressive, right? Because it means against other teams where they think they have the advantage, they'd rather have a different item to push that advantage. On teams where they think they might get some of their farm stolen from them, you know, the experience share comes in and helps that character make the difference. Indie Bear already level 6, and that's what you want, that Cotton Guard for Dreadnought, as Dreadnought is here in 23 seconds. And now we're just kind of posturing back and forth. An earth-shattering lead here for TTV, 34-17.
Absolutely, you can catch on the Indie Bears item choice as well. Again, it could be a reaction knowing that Mime Pika is down bot, because you can get really caught out of position, especially as just a Gossifleur before you evolve up, and that can really hinder you. So making sure you're nice and healthy and not just completely giving up that bot lane is definitely a nice thing to bear in mind as Toon wraps his way down here. And it's going to unite straight away.
Unite move from left field coming in, and they eat up that Pikachu as they are working through. Toon comes back, and they want some more. They're eyeing down Bruv. They can't quite close the door on them, but what does that do? That opens the door on Dreadnought as it's getting kind of poked around and pushed around. Now everybody's back, just chipping in. It might be a coin flip play. We're going to see. Goof hasn't engaged yet. Are they waiting to use Hyper Voice to try and mow down the last bit? Zugrug, heavy slam, but no, it is Bruv, the Mr. Mime, that closes it with a confusion shot, and now they're chasing down Indie Bear and Toon to see what they can do. Toon trying to chip away, protect this goal zone, and hang out a little bit, but the pressure's a little too much, as now we see points rolling in from Gosu and Bruv, and Toon sent back into their jungle, retreating tail in between their legs here as Lutano is chipping into those A-Palms, and we're going to see if we're going to make it a Rotom game. Lutano and Zug going in, going to pressure Dex and see if they can get just a little bit of real estate to get some points in. Heavy slam combo with the dunk, Lutano does, and that attack weight for Lutano is picking up stacks real quick as TE coming in. TE Dexter now getting bullied by 3 as Toon comes in just last second there, and Bruv able to create a little bit of distance to keep them from going down with their Unite move. Was that the correct expenditure? We're going to find out. Lutano bone rushing over and still putting pressure on Dexter, and what does that do? That opens the door from Zugrug to close the gap. And was that a Unite move from Lutano to kick on the buddy barriers and open some space? Still pushing down the lane. Another KO. They pick off Dexter, and now it's on Gosu to try and stop Zugrug, the big old Snorlax, and they're unable to as more points go in. And look how far down the lane Lucario is, just getting chased and opening up that window. And if you can just see Indie Bear, I'm pretty sure they've just been alone, just chipping into this Rotom by themselves as Goof is holding down the bottom fort. And that was just incredible surgical play by TTV, and one of the reasons they're one of the best squads in the game. They're playing undermatched in terms of personnel on every axis, and yet still getting the better of every exchange, and that's just what top teams do.
Yeah, and aggro Indy does take that Rotom, sends it down the lane as well. You love to see it as Goof is getting taken out here, or pressurized pretty early, but does get back and can protect his goal zone in time for another Dread. Looks like Cinderace is down there. Lucario's is both staying up top, but it could be a nice 4v4 here. Not engaging too soon, actually focusing on the bees a little bit first, getting some free experience in while it's there. And we'll see if there's going to be any more Unite action coming in. See some big blocks from Snorlax, not getting a huge amount done there before this Dreadnought is engaged, and big Unites coming in.
Unite move kicked off immediately by Bruv, and that sends Indy scrambling a little bit as we kick back to Goof here, the Sylveon, who's hiding in the grass and trying to Hyper Voice and create a little space. Now Goof forced to get a berry, and they're just chucking back and forth with each other. Bruv on the verge, Snow Point's on the verge, and now the Pikachu, Chris Hero's pushing up a little bit, who when last time we watched, they were playing that Venusaur, but now they're on Pikachu. Let's see how that works out. Bruv getting froggy in the middle there. Toon seeing them, and they're kicking fireballs right into the middle, and they're eyeing down Chris Heroes. That's a Leaf Tornado, bubbling them out again, as Toon is slowly chipping into Dreadnought. Zugrug, we saw them going for a heavy slam. Chris Heroes isolated very easily and very quickly as they're mowed down by Toon. Now Indy's following Toon, gets taken out. And Goof is on the scramble here as they're trying to bubble out Lutano is trying to help them bubble out Bruv, as Bruv and their own Mr. Mime and Cinderace are coming down and working on that Dreadnought.
Looks like Lucario was able to get some free points in at the top lane themselves. Could also turn their attention to Rotom now if they want to, because there's a lot of action going down this bot lane still, as we see some big KO Cinderace going down. Lucario currently down as well, slow on that respawn at the same time here, as we are seeing a push now from TTV as they have had a bit of a win down this bot side. And Lucario is going to be mopping up that Rotom for free by the looks of things. I don't think Lucario is going to get back in time to deny that, and yet Rotom has been taken on that bot lane for bad macro, which is a really nice pickup for you, especially when it's free, and it may distract the likes of Cinderace and the likes of Lucario here just before the Zapdos pit.
I mean, good hero play here by Bruv, able to take both Dreadnoughts with some very clean play in the absolute kerfuffle that were those team fights of just things getting thrown all over the place. And as you mentioned, they're on a slight point disadvantage here, 19 points. But Zapdos is here, and Zug honestly, Zug is just is playing a decoy right now, right? Chris Heroes is committed to them. They're not joining up with the team, and Pikachu is pivotal to get that DPS cranked up and cranking out. Bear just hanging out, ready to go whenever they need to. And Toon coming in, getting chased down by a Unite move. That's a weird use of a Unite move, but here comes Indy, going to pick up the heals on their player. And this is a Unite move from Chris Heroes. They join into the mix. Indy's going to get out, and that's Toon and Lutano both down, as now Zugrug is trying to put some pressure on to try and keep them from taking Zapdos here. But Mr. Mime is going for the back cap. Bruv is going for the back cap, and now Goof is on the edge. Chris Heroes picks him off, and now it's all on Zugrug trying to hold down this bottom goal zone as they get taken out, and now that's 3 down, and all of bad macro is dunking on that bottom goal zone. That's a hundo burger, straight ducats, as Bruv is chasing Indy Bear and forcing them to their goal zone. Lutano just taking some farm here, mainly to get some more points so they can go score somewhere, but is Toon and company going to turn it onto Zapdos and try and flood this thing the other way? Cinderace, both Cinderaces are kind of bubbling out, and they need to meet back in the middle here, trying to work towards more Unite moves, as Zugrug is the first one to engage. Again, maybe a distraction, as this Zapdos is getting worked on here by Indy, by Toon, by company, but now it's 4-on-2, and they get isolated on top. Unite move from space to go ahead and take out some players of that TTV squad, and we just saw Lucario Unite move just soar across the screen, as look at Zugrug getting mowed down as they're trying to get the blocks up. That's 4 down there for TTV. Lutano is left alone standing, and they're going to try and score here against Snow Points, and they're trying to get those points in before the score shield is broken. The score shield is broken, no points in, and they get taken out, and bad macro Flipbirds are going to seal up game 1.
Absolutely incredible stuff there. Some great team fighting going on in Zap Pit, and, well, TTV always seem like a dominant force, but net and match to every moment there, especially in the late game. That's normally what we see the difference between TTV and the other teams, how good they are at closing. But it wasn't really a closing situation. They were pretty much level the entire game, and it came down to those crucial team fights, and bad macro Flipbirds were there. They were able to put a ton of pressure on, use the Unite moves very, very cleverly, and wow, big game 1 win there. And also causing a statement, putting it out there, TTV, you got to come beat us, because we're going to follow you toe for toe.
Listen, OmniJoe, I think that game for me came down to Bruv. Bruv, we mentioned how crucial it is if you're going to be picking up the Mr. Mime character, that you are very, very, very on the nose, no missed marks. And I'll tell you what, nabbing 2 Dreadnoughts, huge. Huge. I mean, they had a good Unite move that took a bunch of KOs as well. I mean, they were just moving real methodically through that entire 10-minute game. And ultimately, I just think that's what it came down to. Normally, TTV is used to at least taking one of those, but Bruv denied them on both ends, and you have to think that played a huge difference in how this game ultimately shook out on the levels, on the scoring, etc.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, normally you expect characters like Snorlax to be those last hit merchants where they get the big heavy slams in there to steal, if not, the Lucarios and the higher DPS characters. But as you said, clutch play from Mr. Mime, throwing up some big barriers, getting some big confusion, pushing people back, and allowing bad macro to really get involved and pressurize those key objectives. So, yeah, impressive stuff for sure. We've said it early on in the tournament as we followed Bad Macro, and they're continuing to prove themselves as a very, very dangerous mind player.
Chris Heroes, you know, I feel like we didn't talk about them too much throughout this game, but man, I literally said I think Zugrug is just kind of decoying him out from what's important. And as you know, as sure as can be, we switched to kind of what was going on in the middle, and it finally seemed like Chris Heroes snapped out of it. They met in, they were able to unite move, and that's kind of what started the tidal wave back against TTV. They got chased through that bottleneck and kind of sent scrambling. They were able to pick up 2 KOs there, and then ultimately, again, the first 2 dominoes fall and 2 more fell right after that. You got the DPSs down, and then the support players went shortly after, which left Lutano to make that top goal scramble, and they were able to close the door, break the score shield, allow no points to go in, and ultimately take that big win. Not to mention, that opened the gate for a bottom hundo burger to be thrown right in and ultimately seal the deal. So, if you're TTV, you're put on the back foot. We've said it before. They can battle from the back foot, but they can't battle if they're scrambling backwards. What do they need to do to kind of set themselves in the ground and withstand this kind of flurry that we're seeing for Bad Macro Flipbirds?
Well, as I said, I mean, as good as the late game was for Bad Macro, they were still in the race. Obviously, TTV were right on in there. The point disparity was minimal. Any buckets from either team would have put themselves ahead in those later stages. So it came down to big team fights, and like you said, well-timed unite moves in the right moments were quite critical there. I think we saw some Lucario Unite moves in there, some Cinderace Unite moves, and just hitting the target and getting into the mob compared to just hitting down one character. These are the small differences that we saw in those later stages, and even things like peeling off and trying to make those greedy plays that you could go for earlier on in the rounds. You'll get punished way more often by the good teams. They are going to capitalize on that. They're not going to get distracted by gimmicky plays. They're not going to get too over-concerned by someone just getting free buckets. They're going to focus on the key objective of those big team fights, and they really made it pay in those later stages.
We mentioned Toon versus Gosu. We mentioned Zug versus Bruv, the Mime. And of course, we mentioned Goof, the Sylveon versus Chris Heroes, the Pikachu. Who do you think got the better of it on each axis? Let's just talk about that. I mean, we know what the score ended up being, of course, right? But taking that out of the context, how do you think Toon v Gosu went?
Well, it's easy to say that everything went Bad Macro's way, but I don't think it necessarily was that. I think Bruv was more convincing for sure than Zug. I think ultimately Pikachu versus Sylveon was a close run thing. I think the Cinderaces both had parts to play for certain. So seeing one of the Cinderaces going down 1 or 2 times more, Bad Macro was able to keep their Cinderace live longer, which is obviously great as you go into the late game, that DPS, and just having that accessible to you and just sort of pop in and just sort of fake your way out and just get damage in when needed is always something that you want to have vital. It's like such an important role that you play. So whenever that's just not open, it allows you to be more aggressive as Bad Macro. So really just making sure that you're alive as Cinderace is just so important in those later stages.
That's very well said. And we were jumping straight into game 2 here. We do have that action ready to go. So, Joe, if I'm going to just call one thing that I want to see from TTV here, I want to see Zugrug step up. We've seen them be the closer, the secure on these objectives. You know, they stay away from the, Toon switched to Talonflame. Toon switched to Talonflame. Yeah. That's such a big game. All right, Toon with the switch up. So maybe Toon's the closer now. But Zugrug still has their part to play with that heavy slam. They need to be very, very, very on point with it. And we need to see them take objectives, at least maybe contestable mobs, right? That middle Audino that kind of seems to spring up at the middle part of the game, and anything contestable possible, those kind of middle Bs, things like that. So leveraging that is something I want to see Zug do a little bit cleaner this game, because it seemed like they just barely got edged out when it came to Bruv versus Zug in those kind of tank set squaring offs, if we'll say.
No, absolutely. And Talonflame, interesting reaction to going down a game. Maybe trying to pick off Pikachu when possible. Maybe trying to, see how that bubbles down in those later stages. Could also be trying to hone in on Mime, as it has just naturally less tankability than Lax in its toolkit. Lax just sits around forever and just doesn't go anywhere. So we'll see how that goes, and if we're going to have a ganking Talonflame the entire game, and if that's going to be the big switch up here, as we are in the action now, seeing the early swarms get eaten up by the traditional 3 that we have seen from bad macro Flipbirds. And we'll see how different this game is going to be as the first bees are getting wiped out.
First beast getting wiped out very convincingly. Chris Heroes, Gosu up top, and it's Chris Heroes in the normal bot lane, as we've been seeing here. So Gosu kicking around, Chris Heroes jumping in, Pikachu putting a little bit of onus back on Goof, as that Chris Heroes is going to try and make the Electric Mouse pay dividends here for their squad. Still working through these Audinos here. A little bit less of challenging than what we saw game 1, but you see Bruv still on the front line, just throwing confusions around. Not a big deal, just bubbling out the opposing squad, almost isolating Indie Bear there, opening the potential KO opportunity, as we have 8 minutes on the clock and we're just posturing all over the place. Zugrug taking a nap, and all of bad macro kind of getting forced back into their goal zone here so they don't get KO'd.
Yeah, doing a really good job in this opening, seeing a couple rests from Lax. It has got chipped away and gets locked into a barrier. Not quite KO'd though, still able to get out of there. Zerg, as we see the Fletchinder trying to get aggressive early on, pushed straight away backwards by Chris. Comparing a Talonflame to a Cinderace, it's far more squishy. You have to play extremely carefully with Talon if you want to get the most out of it, and it was able to get out of there. And it looks like a bit of action at the top lane. Cinderace from Gosu pressurizing the Lucario here as well, and having a bit of a double up top.
Snorlax able to take a KO there on Bruv as the Talonflame just completely swept in and mowed some players down here. That's the Chris Heroes going down to Toon. Now the Talonflame. I like to see the mix-up as Dex and Gosu are working their way through the bees upstairs. We've got 6 seconds until Dreadnought and Rotom. And it looks like all of Orange is going to congregate to Dreadnought, seeing that that's going to be an important path to victory. A little bit of a fight breaking out as we have Mime coming down, chasing down on Goof, and just a confusion into the invisible wall that is the map barrier as they're chasing down Goof. And now Dexter comes in for the action here as well, as Snow Points is on the retreat. Gosu's there to support, and that's a Unite move coming in through Toon. Is somebody going to be there to support them and pick them up as the Dexter Lucario does go down? That's a heavy slam from Zugrug, but Chris Heroes takes it out from Zugrug. Zugrug just being a little too early with that heavy slam, and they're able to take it. Now they put the pressuring back the other way here as we see a big fight breaking out at the goal zone, and finally Chris Heroes takes out Toon the Talonflame, which was being just a pest, just an absolute menace back there on the goal zone, and just a Unite move from Dexter to try and get a little bit of that the buddy barrier going. And they come in so they can take the KO on Lutano and then work their way through that Rotom. Gosu back in their jungle. Chris Heroes guarding the bottom goal zone, and Bruv fighting over this contestable Audino as Goof and Zug come in. Heavy slam from Zug, I believe, takes it. And now Bruv and Chris Heroes rolling in tandem as they're going to try and get this Audino here. One smack, one clap, here we go. Bruv locking it down. Snow Points back in the mix. Leaf Tornadoes all over the place. And now we're just posturing. It is at a very close 98-84 game.
Absolutely, super close. A lot of good team fights. Very aggressive from both sides here. Lucario's coin flipping the Rotom by the looks of things up top was the way of TTV, and well defended in the end by bad macro. The Rotom didn't do too much. Actually got the response KO, as it looks like Lucario once again is trying to get some free points in while it can and make the most out of its items here. You are seeing the Lax getting really fruity into a number of characters. Unite move from Mr. Mime coming in as well. We see Cinderace getting into the mix for even more DPS as they're really trying to push down this bottom lane.
Yeah, they've identified that as what they want their goal zone to be. I want to, real quick, when Gosu was able to take a KO on Toon, did you see Snow Points roll in just barely at the bottom of their screen and pick him up just on the edge of the cotton guard, which allowed Gosu to get the advantage there and get that KO. So well sought out and a very solid support role play there by Snow Points. Want to point that out as we have 12 seconds to Dreadnought, and we have 4 players on, 5 as Dex is rolling down pretty hard to contest this Dreadnought here, the whole squad. And like usual, Lutano hanging out around top by themselves. Bruv got a good spot in the grass, able to use just a confusion blast on Zugrug. They isolate them and they're mowing them down. Here we go. Toon comes in. with a little bit of maneuvering there, able to get Zugrug out of a jam, and now all of Orange is just mowing down Dreadnought, and that's a Unite move and another Unite move. Buddy Barrier's up, and that's all 5 pushing up the flow here as they're going to try and get some KOs, and they're going to try to close this goal zone out. Zugrug goes down, and the pusher's on. Now we're just trying to get more points in. Somebody's working on Bs, and all of TTV is split as Indy Bear decides to go help out Lutano, and this goal zone gets shattered.
Absolutely does, and Lucario is still working on that Rotom by the looks of things. Finally has been taken at that top lane and sent packing down as, again, a great Dreadnought win by Bad Macro. Again, convincing. Didn't feel like there was much chance for TTV to take it there. They really pressurized well with the likes of Mr. Mime, with some good Unite moves being spent there by the Cinderace. As it looks like, again, they're trying to mobilize down this bottom lane and keep the pressure going. They do need to make their sort of level advantage show in the score that little bit, though, because TTV have been punishing with scoring their own points here. So still defending their early goal zone, making sure there's no free points on the table for TTV here.
Something we haven't seen with TTV is Toon, their jungler, being behind on levels, and seeing that Talonflame at level 12 has to be sad for TTV, and something that I have to take in consideration moving through the rest phase of this game. We have 1 minute left till Zapdos, and you got to think that that's already what TTV is thinking about. Only behind 30 points, but behind quite a bit in levels here, as they're just trying to manipulate their way through this map. Chris Hero's doing a great job being left alone, protecting that goal zone.
Yep, and most of the action is actually in top, and Brub again making his presence known. Talonflame hasn't been able to get very effective here. As you said, not got the levels that you want to see. Power-up punches being thrown around by Lucario, but not really to any great effect. It's thinking about basing, but no cancelling out and trying to take down Brub here as Talonflame gets involved. Does indeed. No, can't even finish off the Mr. Mime. We see a barrier finally going to get the KO there. I think even had to spend the Unite move to get the job done. So, wow, a lot of commitment there just to deal with Mr. Mime. You can see how much of a pain it's been.
Absolutely, and something that might be a kind of a thorn in Bad Macro Flipbird's side is that bottom second level goal zone is still there, and that is an easy way to get quick points in. And that's a Unite move by Dexter, firing straight up top, I think at Lucario to keep them from backing. Excuse me, that picked up the KO. Yep. I must have completely missed that. And the fight's breaking out. That's Brub jumping in with the showtime, baby. Jazz hands as they're trying to put their work in, and that's Snow Points piggybacking off that Unite move with their own, as they have picked up no KOs but have created a great amount of separation. And finally, Indy Bear takes a KO on Dexter. You hate to see it. You hate to see the Cotton Ball take down your Lucario, but that's a point of inflection here. Indy Bear pays for that, but that's a good exchange if you're TTV. Bruv getting worked on by Goof. Now Lutano working on Snow Points and Chris Heroes, and we're working through as Mr. Mime goes down, Bruv has gone down, and they're on a hot timer as Gosu is working their way up with Snow Points and Chris. And they've got to band together here if they're going to keep TTV from taking this bird in the middle. And that's a Unite move by Gosu, able to lock down Goof, as now they're getting chased, and Talonflame takes a 2 KOs, excuse me, and now they're bullying Chris Heroes as Zugrug is going to be able to score in the face of Chris. Dexter stops that on the button, though. And now Dexter going to come in and trying to stop Indy Bear, but Indy Bear's got the score shield. He gets stuffed. He gets stuffed right before it goes in. Dexter with the work, putting the team on his back, keeping those points from going in. And now there's just a small point disparity, but it looks like that Bad Macro Flipbirds might be able to hang on. They're pressuring down their own bottom goal zone and working through. Chris Heroes identifying. Lutano's up top. Lutano's up top. We don't know how many points they got in. Goof picking up a KO on Chris Heroes, but they're able to close a goal zone downstairs. That's 82 points, and now we see 259 to 337, and we're gonna have to see some late game heroics here. Plus 54, and we're moving around. I don't even know how many that was. We got 6 seconds on the clock, and plus 38. I have no idea how this is gonna shake out. I think Bad Macro holds on. I think Bad Macro holds on just by keeping out Goof. Let's see if they can take it 2-0. All the screens, they're able to take it by 150. They're able to take it by 150. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? 2-0 Bad Macro Flipbirds take down TTV and send them angrily to the losers bracket, Joe. And you got to think they're feeling good. They get a little bit of a rest here as the losers bracket sorts itself out. Joe, I'm going to pitch it straight to the desk, get their input here so we can start talking about what we've got coming down the pike next. Whew. Kirk doobsnax Dubé, Joe, OmniJoe, Bernard, back to you in the booth.
Wow. That was insanely intense. All the words, man. That was both nail biting. You see me in the background just the whole time. Just like this on the edge of my seat, just waiting for these little things to kind of happen to end, these different fights breaking out. Absolutely insane. Zoinks, what'd you take from that? Absolutely incredible gameplay from both teams.
Yeah, good macro, even without Bird, is what I'm going to say for that team. Incredible work from this squad. I mean, huge win to be able to take down TTV in winners finals, which they've done before, but to really confirm it and then to do it in a 2-0 fashion. I'm not going to say it, but we have a new team on top. I mean, the tournament's not over, but it looks like we might have a new team on top. I think it was an incredible game. If I'm picking something like overall that I really think that pushed that team ahead, it's going to be the poke damage. I mean, Chris running that Pikachu in opposed to the Sylveon on the other side, everybody on Team TTV was half HP by the time they wanted to engage in any team fight. We have Gosu and Chris just poking in damage from max range, making it so that any team fight they're engaging in is already winnable by the time that any of this engage happens. That makes it so easy for Bruv to clean up on those last hits on those boss Pokemon like he was doing in games 1 and 2. Incredible show. 7th, what were you looking at in that whole game?
From what I saw, there wasn't a lot of 5v5s. It was a lot of very skirmishy, which I see a lot with high-level teams. It's a lot of, hey, let's try to go here, let's try to go there, and there's like 2 fights going on at the same time. Yeah. That's what I saw a lot in both those games towards the end of the game. Everyone kind of figured out what to do optimally and was trying to do that. It was less of a cohesive 5-man, let's go here. It was, hey, you two go here, you two go here, you try to backdoor. And I think that, Flipbird just did it a little bit better because it was very close until, 9 minutes into the game and just got a few extra picks and boom, win the game.
It's true, and despite they even played incredible defense when Zapdos wasn't that main target of TTV. They understood that, and they were able to double down on that bot lane. It was really impressive, and I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the separating of team positioning. I think positioning is specifically what secured them on that game 2. That Talonflame is a dangerous threat coming out of Toon, but when he is trying to dive in and find these squishy targets that bad macro does have, but they're split, they're ready to pounce as soon as that bird drops. That Talonflame has incredible damage potential, but once it presses all its buttons, it's kind of dead in the water. And they were absolutely able to capitalize on that. Toon was definitely able to make some magic happen, but the entire team of TTV couldn't really seem to convert that into a point lead or even some goal zone takedowns. So I'm really impressed with the positioning and the execution that we saw at a bad macro flip bird.
Absolutely.